I seen the first gig in London, 1976. My local, the King's Head.
Oh right, yeah.
Used to be Nashville Rooms.
Yeah. North End Road.
Couldn't fuck it, but in the height of the punk era,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of guys come out of my leg.
Who?
AC/DC.
Wow.
Bon Scott.
Wow.
It was fucking awesome.
Making us
sorry.
jealous.
I'm talking.
Are you going to start talking about Mother's Finest, making us even more
Talking
jealous?
about what?
Mother's Finest and Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Yeah, seen them. Seen
Oh,
Lynyrd Skynyrd.
man.
You name them, I've seen them. That's the only good thing about being old.
Captain Blackbeard.
Seen them twice.
Yeah, you lucky
Supported once.
bastard.
How many times have you seen Alice?
Alice Cooper?
Yeah.
I have never seen Alice Cooper. Oh, no, I did. Beg pardon. I've seen the Hollywood Vampires.
Oh right, yeah, but that's not
Brilliant.
really. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
With Johnny Depp.
Yeah, absolutely
Are
fun.
we
He's
rolling?
actually a pretty good guitarist,
really.
isn't he, Johnny
Right.
Depp? Yeah.
It's rock and roll.
Okay, should we start?
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just
That was the intro, you know, like those
Yeah.
James
Just having
Bond
a chat.
movies.
Okay, guys, welcome to our podcast, Rock is My Life. And with us on the bill, we have Danny Hynes.
That's me.
That's you. In bands like Weapon and Danny Hynes Band. And among other projects, I believe.
How did you come up with that name?
Which one?
Danny Hynes Band.
Because you didn't like Danny Hynes and the Svens.
It wasn't me.
That was my...
And to his left in the couch, we have Barry, Thunderstick, Graham, Purkis.
Hi there. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for being here. And in former bands like Iron Maiden, Samson, and currently Thunderstick. Yep. Okay.
All the way from London.
Yes.
Especially for this.
Flew in today. Right.
The first guest to fly in from abroad.
Yeah.
What an honor.
Well,
It is.
I kind of flew in via Dublin, Birmingham.
And we're
London,
kind of honored that you're here too.
and then I stayed.
And we got two guest hosts. In case our questions aren't good enough, they will supply even better ones. Right? Is that why you're here? No, I'm just
That's
kidding.
why we're here.
Yeah.
We're just here to see that everything goes as
planned.
as some sort of standard.
You're fact-checked
yeah.
the
And
questions.
I must say, two fabulous backing vocalists as well.
Yes. They
The-
love
the
having
new-
fun.
The new
Fun.
Blowing Eddie.
Yeah.
And I'm here to make sure that Mattias, who didn't introduce himself, to make sure that he is getting all the facts right when he is checking stuff. So
Yes. And we got Mattias, and we should introduce you too. Henrik.
Henrik, yeah.
Yes. The wonderful guy who supplied backing vocals and bass when we performed earlier today.
Yep, if you say so.
Have we performed already?
Yeah. Yes, we have.
Have we?
I don't know if we're going to make that a surprise or not. No, we did. And it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I think so.
And what tracks did what tracks did we do?
We did the bass tribute remote control.
Baz Charles,
The bass rhythm.
Barry Charles Downs, the original bass player in Weapon.
Yeah.
He did one of his songs called
Yeah.
Remote Control, which we demoed in 1980,
Yes.
but never recorded it since.
Until
Till the new Weapon album,
Right.
which is being recorded at the moment. And then we done
A Samson track, Riding with the Angels, which I'm currently doing with my band Thunderstick, and we did have a good time, didn't we? It was good.
It really was
good.
fun.
It was
I
good.
mean, you know,
It was really
cliche.
good. Yeah, it's nice.
So we want to start from the beginning and know how you guys get into music. Should we start with you, Danny?
Well, I went to a Beethoven concert. I thought, I kind of like this.
Yeah. Was that his farewell tour?
No, he just started.
Oh, okay.
His first world tour.
Wow.
I thought, that's
1912.
pretty cool. So,
When he still had his hearing.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Pardon?
When he
No, I got it through my my older brothers used to bring, Rolling Stones and Beatle albums. And my favourite bands at the time was Small Faces, a huge Stevie Marriott fan. And I love bands like the Hollies, of course the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. But it was just music that was brought into the house, and we used to have a lot of family parties on the weekends. And my parents would sing as well, mum and dad. So I had a lot of music in the family growing up.
Did it like singing came natural to you, like an instrument, or did you play guitar or something else before?
I never had lessons. Some people say you should, but
it's too late now.
Too late now. No, I never had proper lessons. It was just something that everyone in the family did. You know, we all sang.
Yeah,
some better than others.
Did it take like a long time to know your own voice, to how to express yourself?
I think you find that when you probably found the same when you start out first, you're playing in cover bands, so you get a wide variety of songs, and then of course when you go into your doing original stuff, you think, oh, I want to be. This is my groove. I mean, I love Free, Stevie Marriott.
Yeah, because in the beginning you usually want to sound like that singer.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Stevie Marriott. I keep saying that. But I don't sing anything like him. No. But I just love his whole persona.
No one does.
No, you're right. No one does. His whole persona, he's just this tiny little guy, a bit like Robert. But this huge voice.
But with talent.
A huge voice,
And his daughter's got that voice as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So, that was my thing, and,
But what made you, because you were born in Dublin or outside Dublin, and you moved to Birmingham.
I did. I was actually going to go and live in Australia at one point.
Right.
And with my first wife, because there was nothing happening. Oh, sorry. Yeah. You can't hear me out there. There was nothing happening in Ireland at the time, and I was living with my in-laws. I thought, I need to get out of here.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. Great title for a Uriah Heep album. Anyway, my wife didn't want to go to Australia, and I said, well, I'm moving somewhere. So she had a sister in Birmingham. I ended up going to Birmingham, lived there for 5 years, and then me and Baz, who we spoke about earlier, we decided we'd go to London, where the streets were paved with gold, and we'd make our fortune. Right, Barry?
Yeah, right.
We all done that.
Right.
And
I have to go somewhere, so I'm going to Birmingham.
Go to Birmingham.
Wow.
And then after 5 years, you get out of Birmingham. As much as I loved Birmingham, and I've some great friends there, London was the place to be for music. That's how I ended up there.
And you, Barry, what made you start with music to begin with?
It was a garage sale, basically. It was my uncle was collecting for a thing called a jumble sale. Now, a jumble sale is the equivalent to a garage sale in the States and what have you. And somebody threw out a pair of military drumsticks. And they never actually made the sale. I kept hold of them, and I started to decimate my parents' furniture. By that time, I was actually looking and watching bands that were, appearing regularly on television.
What bands were around
Rolling
at this
Stones, Small Faces, all those kind of bands. They're just 60s bands, and. It wasn't really the drums that, I was just swept up with the whole thing, the whole kind of image and the way they were, and this is what I wanted to do with my life. And I started, as I say, breaking up my parents' furniture, so they thought it was probably a better idea to buy me a drum kit. And they bought me a drum kit and then proceeded to tell me to stop playing it because the neighbours were complaining, which was quite ironic, really, but there you go. And we put on our own concerts, and we started doing cover versions, but we were always school friends, and I ended up playing with a guy who brought a wah-wah to school. He was the first guy to bring a wah-wah to school, and got in a band with him, a guy called Bernie Brook, always remember him, and he had this great big fur coat and everything, really looked the part, and it was great, and we used to rehearse out in a a farmer's right out in the middle of nowhere. And it wasn't exactly a barn, but it was a storage for vegetables, rotting vegetables and everything. The smell was horrendous. And it would have one electric power point that we would drive all the backline off of and everything. And yeah, it was just quite crazy. And then I moved to a suburb of London called Streatham. And I saw this guy at the time I was working, the first job I got was working in a recording studio. I wrote off to all the recording studios because you'd have a career advisor who would come round to the school and say, now, what would you like to do? And I'd say, well, I would like to be in the music industry because I had a clear-cut idea of what I wanted to do. And the best they could offer was the possibility of maybe working in the local record shop or whatever. And I just said, no, not like that. I want to be in the industry. Yeah. Anyway, I wrote to all the studios in London and I was lucky enough to get a job as a tape op at Pi Recording Studios in London. And my claim to fame was that I was a tape op on Status Quo's Dog of Two Head.
Are you joking?
No. When they came in and recorded that.
Awesome.
And I couldn't believe it. You know, they came in and that was the first sort of album. I know they had Mark Kelly's Greasy Spoon, but that was the album where they started the 12-bar thing and all that.
My favourite albums.
But yeah, it is. It's great.
What year was that?
Oh, man, now you're asking.
Late 60s?
I don't know. It was years ago. Yeah.
He was still in kindergarten.
Yeah, of course.
But it was great. But I got so frustrated at being on the wrong side of the glass because by then I was playing regularly. Anyway, long story short is that I made friends with a guy who lived next door to us at Streatham, and he looked a real party. You know, he had his hair down here in a turquoise velveteen jacket, and it looked absolutely wonderful. And he came up to me and said, "Are you a drummer?" And I went, "Oh, here it comes, you know, could you please stop playing?" And I went, "Oh, I'm sorry, and then before I had even started, he turned around and said, "No, I'm a guitarist. Do you fancy getting together again?" Together. So we did, and we got spotted by a guy who came up. We did a thing called the Windsor Free Festival. The Windsor Free Festival was a week-long festival that was held in Windsor Park, a royal park in London. And it went on for a week. And anyway, we ended up playing and we did 2 sets. This guy came up to us and said, "Look, my name's Simon. I've got a band in Sicily. It's a band that went out in the 60s and got a name for themselves called the Primitives, and they parted company with the singer who was named a guy called Mal, and he went solo and the band went off in that direction. I'm the singer of the band, would you fancy coming out?" And we thought, yeah, it's all kind of utter bullshit, so but anyway, it happened, and we went out and I joined this band out in Sicily, and we toured throughout the whole of Sardinia, Greece, Italy, and that was it really, and that was my kind of path into playing professionally all the time. And I was 19, and you can imagine what Sicily was like in 1974. I mean, the people that used to look at us thought we'd dropped out of the sky,
Well, I've seen The Godfather.
Unbelievable, yeah. They'd look at us. They used to call us Shimia, which was monkey. And they'd look at us like this, You get all these guys coming out of church on a Sunday morning, and they'd all gather in the town square and all that, and look at us. But it was unbelievable. I lived on the banks of Mount Etna.
Wow.
And to see Mount Etna exploding now on the news, just brings back a lot of memories.
But according to my papers here, you actually were into punk as well in a band called Tiny and the Hot Toddies.
Well, Tiny and the Hot Toddies was the band that we played Windsor Free Festival with. Right. And that's where we got seen by Simon, who... Yeah, then we went out to Sicily. Yeah,
but then you were a punk band. But
no, not with Tiny and the Hot Toddies. It was never a punk band. It was a covers band, and we were doing. Funny enough, we were doing Small Faces stuff like Shalalalali and all that, All or Nothing. Yeah, it was great.
But when you went to Italy, then did you play? Was the music you did then that sort of 60s pop rock or? Yeah,
some of it, but some of it was original as well because we were filling already, a band that had already existed out there. We did stuff that was in Italian, and funny enough, when I came back to England, a long time, much later, I got into a band called Angel. And they just reformed, funny enough, Angel.
The American Angel?
Yeah, American Angel, yeah.
Oh, that
yeah.
was on the same label as
And I couldn't
Kiss.
believe it because we had a song called Yeah, which was all in Italian. And we released it on a label that was called the Piper Club series. And I came back and I couldn't believe it because it was on this album. I can't remember what the name of the track was, but they translated it into English and they'd recorded it on their album, which was like phenomenal. And I was like, whoa, I know this track.
Going full
I played
circle.
on this track, yeah. So it's quite weird.
And that sort of brings me, a question popped up in my head here. What's the first proper recording, released recording that you played on?
Oh man.
Set the record straight.
I think it would have been that, but I don't know if it ever was officially released. We recorded it and it went out on the Piper Club series, but as to whether it ever actually came out, I'm not sure. Because by that time I'd come back to England, so I really don't know.
But when you joined
think.
Angel, did you move to the US to join Angel?
No, I never played with Angel.
Ah.
No, what it was that I bought an Angel album,
Oh.
and the song that I'd recorded with the Primitives in
Oh, okay.
Italian was actually on this album.
Right.
And it was,
Covered it.
yeah, they covered it, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Because I think the singer was Italian anyway, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Of
I
Angel.
think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Pavarotti, his name was.
Yeah. Good voice.
Yeah.
So when you moved to London, Danny, how did you start about you didn't have a band at that time?
Well,
You moved there with Baz.
no, yeah, but I had a band in Birmingham. I mean, the first band that I was with Baz in Birmingham
Yeah.
was a band. It just reminded me of the old days.
Yeah.
I was thinking, everyone thinks I just started in 1980
Yeah.
with Weapon, but in the 70s when in Birmingham, I think the first band I was in was a band called Machine, and I had a drummer, Chris Campbell, who was one of the original drummers in Judas Priest, colored chap, and his brother John was guitarist, who now has a Jimi Hendrix tribute
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
So they were one of the first bands I was in, and then I teamed up with Baz in a band called Sister Dora.
Brilliant name.
Sister, it's a weird name, but Sister Dora was she's like Florence Nightingale of the
Yeah.
Midlands.
Oh, right, yeah.
A big statue of her in the Midlands of Birmingham. And we ended up going to do the Air Force bases in Germany, which was a real experience.
What time was this?
73 probably. 72,
yeah.
73.
And you did covers like
All covers. And we got this gig and took the tour bus, minivan,
yeah.
out to Germany, and we got to the German promoter's house, and he said, well, you have to do 5 one-hour sets a night. And we're like,
I suppose the money was great.
oh, huge.
Yeah.
5, and we're going like, we'd like 2 45-minute sets.
Yeah.
So we said, yeah, we can do it. 'Cause a lot of bands, I think there was 10 bands went out to do all these German Air Force bases. That was a big thing
Yeah.
in the 70s. And most of the bands said, we can't do that. So they went back home. And we said, yeah, we can do that. No
Yeah,
problem.
no problem.
So we were driving to the first Air Force base, which was probably 3 or 4 hours away. And we spent the whole time acoustic guitar in the back of the van learning
Yeah.
5-hour songs. And we done it. So that was, it was a great ground to start, to start your career. Because
Yeah.
it was hard work.
Yeah.
Anything after that, you probably done the same thing. Anything after that was easy peasy.
Yeah.
So yeah, but when we went to London first, me and Baz, I was actually up for an audition with Mott the Hoople.
Wow.
Do you remember when Ian Hunter left and
Yeah.
they formed the band?
Yeah.
You auditioned for it?
No, I didn't.
Huh?
I was up for it. And
Oh.
I went to the rehearsal place and I thought,
Maybe not.
I don't think so. And the other one was, so far, we were just talking about earlier, was the Heavy Metal Kids.
Wow.
And Gary Holton left. And again, the same thing. He got to the door and was like, well, there's about fucking 40 guys there. And I went,
Well, I can actually trump that because when Samson were looking for a vocalist, I put forward Gary Holton,
Wow.
and we seriously looked at him, and because I just, as we were talking about earlier, saying that I fell in love with the guy. He was a star. He was brilliant. And we were looking for a vocalist because CBS were supposed to be signing us. Never happened. But they then turned around and said, because we were a three-piece, and they turned around and said, oh, you need a focal point at the front. You need a vocalist. And Gary was one of the people we looked at. But he was starting his acting career, and that was it, really. Never looked back. No.
Oh, he became an actor instead.
Yeah.
The only other band huge band that I actually auditioned for, was Uriah Heep.
Really?
John Sloman got the gig.
Yeah, right.
I remember going to Chalk Farm Recording Studios, which is a huge place.
Yeah.
You know, you got the mixing room, you know, the control room, and then you got the studio, which is like 100 times the size of this, and 100 times the size of this. And they put you in there, and they're going to play a backing track.
Yeah.
Sing to it.
Nervous?
So
My arse.
they didn't even play with you then?
No. They all sat in the room.
Lazy.
And what was
the track?
I can't even remember.
Can I meet the band? No.
Oh yeah, I met the band.
You met the band.
And I have to say, he's become a friend of mine now over the years. Mick Box, he was the one who told me I didn't get the gig, and he was so sweet about it. You know, came down and he's like, really good man. And, I was fucking shy. I know I was shy. Sorry, man. You know. And then John Sloman got the gig.
And we toured with them, with Samson.
He did.
We did with that lineup.
Well, you did.
Yeah.
I mean Mick Box.
I saw Mick about a couple of years ago. We did a festival called A New Day.
Yeah.
And I went backstage and Mick Box. I said, I bet you don't remember me. And he went, bloke with the mask. Bloke with the mask. Thunderstick. That's it. Yeah. And they were absolutely phenomenal.
The dog's bollocks. I've seen him here
with Bernie. Bernie's an ideal frontman for him.
He's amazing. People keep going on about David Byrne, who was amazing.
Yeah, of course.
But Bernie's been with them 30 odd years now.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And they're friends of mine. The manager is a friend of mine as well.
Right.
We went to see them at what's that place? Freezer House.
Oh, Fryshuset. The club.
And I mean, Jesus, I hadn't seen her a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And me and my wife walked to the dressing room. It was like, you know, we were like fucking royalty.
Yeah.
Just drinks. Bernie making cocktails for my wife. And, you know, real down-to-earth, genuine people.
Yeah,
you know?
they are.
None of this fucking, well, I'm a star, don't talk to me, Malaki.
No.
Now, they're good friends. And Phil, of course, Phil Danson, the keyboard player, he's been longer than Bernie.
Yeah.
He used to play in my other band. And he goes to Holyhead.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. That's great. It's all very incestuous.
It is,
And now I know Flo and Eddie.
Which one's Flo, by the way?
Well, they change every night.
It's hard to tell. Hard to tell.
So back to you then, Barry. When did you get into sort of your first hard rock heavy metal band? Or what was it when you got back from Italy?
Yeah, I think so. I was very much into prog rock at the time, and we toured with when we were in Italy. We had toured with a band called PFM,
right?
An Italian prog rock band. And so I was very much into that when we got lots of time changes and time signatures and etc. etc. So I came back and I joined a band that hadn't had a drummer. They'd had a singer that used to play congas. And it was a kind of folk rock band.
Was it T-Rex?
But very much like that. You know, they were called Archer. And they, you know, we did all kind of really weird stuff. I mean, we did a couple of covers. Classical Gas, you remember Classical Gas? We did as a cover. And it was good because it was the bass player and I really kind of bonded together, and we got fed up with it eventually, as you do. And due to the lack of gigs and work all the time
and money.
Yeah, money. Oh, but I mean, money didn't really matter that much at the time. Because I'd been used to touring as a 19-year-old, to come back and find that there wasn't that kind of workload really, I couldn't believe it. It was like, you know, I was half expecting to come back to the UK and find that I was able to do the same kind of thing in the UK, but it didn't happen, obviously. And so I joined this band, and we then moved. The bass player and I moved on, and we formed a band called Oz. And we were we got a keyboard player, but we could never find that guitarist. You know, they would always be thrown by the time signatures and what have you. It was so frustrating. And eventually that kind of imploded as well. And then I joined a band called Mr. Zero, and yet again, due to lethargy and stuff not happening, got really frustrated. And then suddenly I saw an advert in the Melody Maker, which was a music publication at the time that was the Bible. It was the go-to place to try and, you know, get yourself a gig or buy equipment or whatever. Classified ads. You know, I was all the time buying it, thinking that I wanted to better myself and try and get into a band that was much more forward-looking. And I saw this advert by a band called, a small-known band called Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
And that was it. So, in answer to your question, that was the first time that I managed to get into a band that was hard rock or heavy metal or whatever you want to call
Are they
it.
still going?
Yeah, I think so.
Can you like describe the sound on Iron Maiden before?
It was
At that
very
time.
different because it was a band that was a work in progress.
Mm.
And so, I mean, everybody these days is an Iron Maiden, you know. They've got an authority about Iron Maiden. Oh, this happened then and that happened then. It didn't happen like that. It was a work in progress. I tell you what Steve Harris did introduce to me, though, that I'd never had before, and that was working bass and drum parts. I'd never, ever experienced that in bands leading up to that. I'd always just, whenever we rehearsed as a full band.
And
But-
did you know where he got that from?
I haven't got a clue. No, I don't know. I think it was just his need to make the bass and drums tight because of the bands that he was listening to at the time. And that was quite an eye opener to do that. And he would by that time I'd bought a house, and he would come to the house after I joined.
What was the audition process like?
I
Did you
remember
audition?
it being a really hot day.
Yeah.
I remember a long corridor and a row of potential drummers all sitting furiously, you know, tapping away at them and all that kind of thing, getting their chops together and what have you. And didn't see the band until they opened the door and went next, you know, type of thing. And like lambs to the slaughter, really. And I thought I didn't particularly play very well, and just thought no more of it. I thought it was just an audition that I'd gone on, and so I was absolutely astounded when suddenly I got the phone call to say yes, that I was in.
But did you get there and they showed you what song to play, or have you got preparation?
No preparation. No.
But one thing that surprises me when I hear stories of old bands back in the day having auditions, you always hear that, oh, it was 60 people or 100 people showing up. Like, I've never heard any recent band having 100 people coming to an audition. I mean, at best I can find probably 4 or 5 drummers in Stockholm.
I couldn't tell you how many people they had, but
No.
I just that is what I remember to be a very hot day. I can remember the sun streaming in through the windows in this long corridor.
But there were
That's
lots
the
of
way it
drummers
was.
there.
Yeah, it was.
That's the way. Like we were talking about the Melody Maker. You know, you would get that on. I think it came out on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And if you weren't in the band, went to the back pages.
Yeah.
Sing I wanted, drum I wanted. You know, and you go along.
That's how you got Weapon together as well.
Exactly
right?
how. Yeah. And going back before Weapon, Snatch.
Yeah.
Band I had with Bob.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Slash, God blimey, that's a name
I
from
mean,
the past.
this is how incestuous this business is. Because my friend Bob played in Maiden and Praying Mantis.
Yeah.
Did you meet Bob, or you were not in Maiden at the same time?
No.
But
I didn't even think it was Steve Harris's band at the time. I thought it was the then singer Dennis Wilcox.
Yeah.
Dennis Rye Wilcox,
Yeah,
as he's known.
yeah. But I mean, yeah, because I thought he'd organised it. He seemed to have the get up and go and you know, advertising, and he was you know, a forward thinker.
Yeah.
Whereas Steve was kind of quite laid back and, you know, he was unassuming and a quiet guy, you know.
I think Steve was at that point, you know, is impressionate a word? I mean, he would take impressions of people who seemed to know the business better than he did.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess that's the thing with Dennis, that when he came into the band, that he sort of took over, more or less.
Yeah, yeah.
And
yeah, it certainly worked that way, you know, with what I remember it to be, definitely. I thought it was Dennis's band because we all met round Dennis's house, and Steve at the time was living with his grandmother, I think. I seem to remember going round to his grandmother's house and being in the front room and going through stuff and what have you. But yeah.
Any maiden questions? Anything that we haven't covered from the early days?
there's always loads of interesting questions, but the thing is to follow the conversation, really. I mean, and you mentioned the audition thing. I mean, would that have been in one of the, like, Scarf studios or anything?
Yeah.
So is that where you used to rehearse then as well?
Yeah,
or?
one of the places. I can remember another place. Funny enough, the heavy metal kids were rehearsing next door to
Tooley
us.
Street.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, Tooley Street. And there were other places like, oh my God, Christ, what was the name of it? Something Gordon.
Yeah, that Walthamstow, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was just a hellhole. I mean,
Most of them were.
oh man, Alan Gordon Studios, that was it.
Yeah.
And you would stand in the corridor and you would be able to hear all the bands rehearsing simultaneously, and it would be like, shut up, you know.
It's a bit like,
Yeah.
Yeah. But good old days, you know. You remember things like that, and you just think it's the music world is a completely different thing these days.
Yeah, but was that the situation in London back in, well, let's say the 70s then, that you sort of like, you booked time slots at studios and then you rehearsed?
Yeah.
You never really had a rehearsal room
oh no,
that way
your own.
was on your own?
No. Couldn't afford that.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
but were there bands who did that? Or was it just like the huge acts? Yeah.
You get a big band. I mean, like a band like ELP, they bought a. Going back to, we just found out today that we lived one street from Unler in West Kensington.
And yet you didn't meet.
Never met.
Wow.
And down the road, in North End Road, which is in West Kensington, right at the end of it, was an old cinema. And ELP bought the cinema and turned it into Manticore Studios.
That's the only way to get a rehearsal space, to buy it.
Yeah.
Well, they, you know.
Yeah, they had the money.
And every band, every major band, I mean, rehearsed at Led Zeppelin, Bad Company, Trapeze, Uriah Heep. And just around the corner was a pub called the Golden Lion. I used to go there regularly.
Same as I did.
And all the bands would come in there, and we'd have what do you call a lock-in. Like the pub would close at 11 o'clock at night, and the doors would be locked, and all the bands would be in there till 5, 6 in the morning. And I remember Mitch Mitchell from Jimi Hendrix lived right across the road, man, and we became friends again because we had drank at the same pub. And I remember one night John Bonham and Mitch Mitchell behind the bar, maybe 3 in the morning, serving the drinks.
Oh my God!
You kind of wish you had the mobile phone that day. The video, I mean, that'd be worth an absolute fortune.
Yeah.
We had some great nights there. But yeah, getting back to the rehearsal studios, only bands that big could have their own rehearsal studio and rent it out to other bands.
So you had to bring your gear for every time slot,
Yeah,
every
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You must have been very, very strong at the time.
Well, I
From all
was
the carrying.
very strong. I only had to bring that.
Yeah, you have to bring them
The
drunk.
best thing to be a singer then.
That's why you became a singer.
I definitely chose the wrong instrument, didn't I?
But that's why you have such much muscle still today then, Barry.
Thank you very much.
I mean, a lot of the rehearsal studios now, you can get the shell of a kit.
Yeah,
You bring
that's
your
right, I do.
breakables, you know,
Yeah, I do.
your cymbals and your snare.
Yeah.
But yeah, back in the day, you brought everything.
Yeah.
You know. And they were shit rehearsal studios. I mean, there's a place in West Kensington, across from the Nashville Rooms, the Talgard Road, the other side of that.
Yeah.
There was a warehouse around there. And I think there was about 8 to 10 rehearsals, rooms. And there was plywood between each.
Like a divider.
Can you imagine the sound?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't
Nice.
prohibit
how it
any
was with
sound
the-
of leaking.
What's that?
It doesn't prohibit any sound of leaking. You might as well be in the same room.
Yeah.
We were.
That's that's how this Alan Gordon place was. You stood in the corridor and it was just hell. It really was.
Yeah.
Shit.
But, you know, it was rehearsals. So you
It
did
didn't
it.
really matter. You didn't
did
really think about it. You wouldn't be complaining saying, the next band, shut the fuck up, you know, be quiet.
That's why you became good musicians, probably too.
Yeah,
I mean, when you listen to when you listen to like old live recordings of the Beatles and they sing perfect harmony at those concerts, and then today you'll have a singer getting furious because his monitor isn't working or his in-ear isn't working, and you're like,
I watched. There was a Beatles thing on the other day on Sky, and it was really, really good. Yeah, it was about the I think it was called the Beatles, the touring years or something like that, and it was really, really good.
When you hear that's the screaming.
Oh, they
and
couldn't hear.
And they're still singing in tune.
Yeah.
I just in
But they'd done their homework, hadn't they? I mean, they'd been to Germany, and that's what
that's
made
what I'm saying
them.
about the Air Force bases.
Yeah,
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, the Beatles, they were playing probably 7 hours a night.
Yeah, they were.
Every night, 7 nights a week.
Yeah.
you're not gonna miss the middle eight
None of them
with
missed
all
the
that
middle eight.
practice.
No.
During that time, you had this pill, right?
The
pill,
Speed.
the speed.
Oh, I never done drugs.
No, but
I've done them now.
I believe the Beatles did in Hamburg.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
To keep them awake.
8 days a week.
8 days a week. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They had to.
Yeah,
Really?
Because, I mean,
Poppers.
you just wouldn't be able to do it otherwise.
I believe the waiters came with the pill when
Yeah.
it was time to hit the stage and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was
Yes, it's a pill.
But also it was indicative of the time as well, that, you know, that there were a lot of people that experimenting with drugs at that time, weren't there? So, I mean, rock and roll has really cleaned its act up recently, just to kind of veer off a little bit onto that subject of drugs.
Yeah.
And alcohol.
Yeah.
Enormous amount of big bands
Yeah.
who ban alcohol.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
I mean, yeah, but the people used to get absolutely stoned out of their gourds before they went on stage. And all right, you could argue the fact that a lot of music was made due to the fact that people were under influence of psychedelic drugs or whatever. I mean, you know, the Beatles that we've just mentioned, you would say that all the psychedelic stuff was due to the fact that they did acid and
Lucy
stuff
in the
like
Sky
that.
with Diamond.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the whole of
Yeah,
Sgt.
Strawberry
Pepper.
Fields, the whole thing.
Just listen to it.
Yeah, yeah. And incredible for what they were recorded on as well. You know?
And the time period.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
But I suppose it's a double-edged sword. I mean, like, there's plenty of examples of rock stars who's too high and just mess up. So,
That's it,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah.
I'm just, as we were talking about earlier, I'm reading the book by Dennis Dunaway about the early Alice Cooper band. And the bit that I was reading on the plane coming over was about Pink Floyd. They met up with Pink Floyd and Syd Barrett. And he talks about his meeting with Syd Barrett and the guy who was on another planet completely and had lost his head completely. And Dave Gilmour had just joined and what have you. So, yeah, it's there is...
You
sorry,
can bring that up to, you know, the modern time and read Pete Way's biography.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, they're one of the greatest bands. I love, still love them, UFO.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ, you read his biography.
But back to Alice Cooper. I read somewhere that he made like 3 or 4 albums in the 70s. Then
He forgot that he'd made
the label would put on a greatest hits album.
Yeah.
And he couldn't like recognize his own songs.
I think those were the early 80s albums.
Early
Yeah,
80s.
they were the-
Early
they
80s.
were the-
Yeah.
It's funny because he openly talks about alcohol, but he never actually talks about cocaine that he was addicted to at that period. And it was Special Forces, Dada, Zipper Catches Skin. Those albums, they're the ones that he doesn't remember anything about.
I think he admitted that only recently, just like a couple of years ago. He admitted that he was equally addicted to drugs.
Yeah, all you got to do is look at a guy from that period when he stopped doing the eye makeup and the Alice character that he was portraying was something completely different for the Special Forces album. The raised eyebrow and he looked totally zonked all the time.
He looks better now at 70.
Oh man, yes.
And actually, Dame's thing reached out a hand to Alice.
Really?
Right, because of his addiction. So.
Or you mean the other way around? Alice reached out a hand to Dave.
No.
Dave helped Alice.
No, the other way around.
Yeah.
I got it wrong. So.
I would think he was doing drugs.
Yeah. But to me, Alice Cooper is my god. I love everything about him. I really do.
So, you guys were both are both so affiliated with the new wave of British heavy metal.
What the hell is that?
I've never heard of it until today. But you came and released a bunch of albums with Samson, and you did a Motorhead tour, you Danny, with Weapon, and this was in 1980. You toured with Motorhead.
I almost on a tour with Samson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's hear that story.
That was weird.
I'll just give my brief thing and then you can take over.
I never knew much about it, so I can't really.
I fucking remember.
Yeah, do.
We'd signed to Virgin Publishing. I think it was sorry, I keep forgetting.
You want to hold it? I can.
No, I don't want to hold it.
So,
keep it to yourself.
Maybe later.
We signed to Virgin Publishing, I think in July or August, and we done some recording at Richard Branson had the Manor Studios and Townhouse Studios, belonged to Virgin. Done recording there, and of course we're looking for a tour.
Were you signed label-wise then?
No, just
publishing.
Yeah, just publishing. But they did release their single through their label. Anyway, so we're looking for tours, and one of the first tours was Ian Gillan, and we're like really excited about that. And Tigers of Pantang got that, and then said, "Oh, Samson's going out. Do you want to do that one?" John Giddings, he was the promoter. Yeah. He promotes the Isle of Wight festivals now. Oh, so he's done okay, unlike some of us. Anyway, he got us this tour, and we said, "Great," and our poor roadies, they had proper jobs at the time. I mean, really well-paying jobs. They gave up the jobs, and we got the van and drove to Wolverhampton, which was the first gig on the tour. And we're all really excited. Get there, and to my memory, it's probably different to yours, I reckon those 3 to 4 bands had all been promised the same thing.
And they all just show up.
We're all there.
Yeah.
And with all our gear.
Yeah.
We're going on tour.
And did you immediately be like, oh, something's wrong here, or did you go, oh, it's a 5-band tour, brilliant?
Well, you get in.
When do we play?
We got into the hall, and the first thing we see is his fucking cage.
Yeah.
I thought, what the fuck is going on here? There's a man in a cage. And then you look around and see all these bands thinking, and all the gear everywhere.
Is this a festival date?
Thinking, what the fuck's going on? And then I can't remember. Possibly your tour manager at the time. Yeah. Can't remember who he was. I was like, what do you guys want? I said, we're on the tour.
Yeah.
No, such and such a band. I can't even remember who got it. We're like, yeah, but John Giddings sent us. He also sent him and them. I was like, oh, okay.
You hadn't seen any advertisement or anything?
No, it was a kind of almost a last minute thing. The tour was about them.
Yeah.
They were promoting an album. It wasn't about who was supporting them.
Which album was this? Well, it wasn't
Head On. Would it be Head On? Or Survivors?
I mean, the big full page ads in there.
Yeah, Head On.
So that must have been Was it? It must have been in 1980 then.
It was
Before the Motorhead.
Yeah, it was probably, I reckon, around July, August. I can't remember the exact days.
Well, then you really got the ad right there.
Yeah.
That's
The
brilliant.
tour was the Midsummer Nights Tour, we called it, I think.
But the funny thing was, we
Yeah.
obviously we had all the gear there,
Yeah.
and the truck had gone back to London.
Oh, man.
So then we had to hire a van in Wolverhampton, and Baz, my best friend who died last year, he came from Cannock, which is near Wolverhampton. So we hired a van there, and we ended up going to his father's house. And I thought, fuck, we'd been given some money by Virgin Publishing
Yeah.
for the tour. So,
Yeah.
fuck it, we're going out in the piss. So the best curries you can get in the world is in Wolverhampton.
Oh, really?
So we headed to Wolverhampton, a big curry, loads of drink, and Bruce Bislett, totally rat-arsed. I mean, beyond rat-arsed. His curry came out, and the first thing he did went. I swear to God, I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
He was head first into it.
He was head on.
Yeah, and
Very
he's gone.
good. I see
He
what
was
you
out of
did
it.
there. Yeah.
So we all ate a curry, have the drink, and Nifty said, "Up, you gotta have some food, Bruce." Back down again. Blah, blah,
I've already had something.
some, yeah, all around here. And we go out, we pay our bill, and we go outside, and there's a Mercedes outside this restaurant, and Bruce is dying for a piss. So, not content to just go against the wall, he decides he'll get and stand on top of the Mercedes and piss. So he's like, shh, all over the place. Next minute, this Indian, get out my fucking car, you stupid bastard.
Oh, man.
So he had to do a runner. So that's our memory of the Samson tour.
So not only did he
So
eat
you
his
didn't
curry.
even play?
No, we fucked out of the room, I think.
Do you guys know which band got the support slot then?
I don't. I really can't remember. I know that we did some with Fist.
You did something with a fist.
No,
No,
there was a
no,
band called
sorry.
Fist.
You're on the porno site now.
Yeah.
Stop it.
No, I can't remember. We had different bands in, but no, I don't remember.
The fact checkers. Who's the opening act?
No, the fact checkers are just trying to think of anything, and I
as to
can't.
which ones.
Yeah, I don't really know, because this was late 1980, must have been, or
And I was,
mid-80s.
mid 1980.
and
Well,
I was kind of not really that au fait with what was going on anyway, because
He was in a cage.
Thunderstick, yeah, that's it. Thunderstick was starting to, as you can see in there, Thunderstick. That was actually the image was starting to. The lines were blurred between where Barry Graham Purkis ended and where Thunderstick started, and it was we had support bands that never ever saw my face, very much like Kiss in the early days, where they totally they wouldn't allow anybody to photograph them without their makeup on and what have you.
How did you come up with this idea? Like theatrical?
Well, funny enough, it was due to the fact that at the time there was no social media, and there was no DVDs, there was no videos or anything like that. It was all about music business publication. And so what I started seeing was that you would get in these publications, they started doing posters of bands for fans, and you would get the singer strutting his stuff, and you would get the guitarist with all the poses, and then you'd see the top of somebody's head and a row of cymbals, especially with the kind of setup that I still play with, with the cymbals being high. So I thought that because most of the time there were exceptions to the rule. Obviously, there were people like Keith Moon and John Bonham, and those, and Ian Pace. So, recognised real drummers, but for most part, drummers were faceless, and people couldn't tell you who the drummer was in. So I thought, great, I'll create a faceless drummer. That's what I'll do. And I couldn't give him my own name because the two wouldn't have actually worked at all. So that's how I came up with the idea of calling it Thunderstick.
That's great idea.
Yeah.
Really, because you got the cover.
But it started getting really crazy. The band, we'd do our sound checks, and I would have a set of masks to wear for the sound check, and as soon as we started getting somewhere near where we were playing, I would, and
I was covering up.
and it wasn't a case of just putting a mask on. You'd have to I still do now. You put all this grease paint on so that it accentuates the whites of your eyes and your teeth and stuff like that, and then the mask over the top of it. So we would turn up, and 5 miles outside the town that we were playing, and it led to so many crazy things happening. I would check in the hotel like it, and it was
they
just
wouldn't
bizarre.
appreciate it.
Oh, it was just bizarre.
Yeah.
People didn't know what the hell to make of it. I can remember sitting there in a hotel room watching Wimbledon, which is a tennis championship, and I'd got the full bit on, and I called room service, and up came this young girl, with the whole lot, and I opened the door, and I would literally forget that I'd got all the mask and the whole thing on like that. She just dropped the lot. It went all over the floor, all over the place. Yeah. And I would then stop talking. I would grunt. And we would do sound checks where, Bruce, I know Bruce has got his own recollection of the way things were at the time, and he's doing we spoke about it earlier, he's doing his book tour, and he recalls all this sort of stuff that went on. But he merrily turns around and says that, yes, at the time Thunderstick wasn't speaking, he would just utter these guttural sounds. How's your monitors? Are they all right? And all that kind of thing. Yeah. So it all got a bit crazy, and the band we'd do our sound check, and the band would go off for something to eat, and I would be left on my own in the dressing room. So it was a lonely existence. Did
they ask a question? Did they ever get pissed off that you were getting?
Yeah,
because you did get the limelight.
Yeah, that's what led to in the end. Yeah. I mean, the thing that actually hit at the end was that we did. Bruce and Paul did an interview for Kerrang, and by that time they decided we'd done Shock Tactics, and that time they decided that look, we're a serious band. We want to be taken seriously. We don't want the carnival aspect in Thunderstick. So the guy that did the interview with, they said, look, we'd rather be written about as to what our music is like serious, and what we're doing. Serious. Yeah. And they'd already started that, because after we did Shot Tactics, we premiered the Shot Tactics, the whole album in its entirety at the Marquee. And Bruce had already decided that he didn't want to dress up anymore, and he just said, look, I'm going to wear a rugby shirt and a pair of jeans, and that's it. Whereas I was still doing the whole bit, and I was alienated from the band, in my own band, as it were. And then they did this interview, and the guy said to him, they said, look, whatever you do, don't talk about Thunderstick and this and Thunderstick and that, etc. Talk about us as a band and the material that we're writing and the music that we're making. And of course, when the interview came out, there was every chapter, there was a picture of my mask on every single chapter, all the way throughout.
Just to mess with them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was it. And I can remember that it was called Fly and Mighty, the actual interview. It was the very first track that I wrote for Thunderstick after that, Fly and Mighty. And we ended up, I think Wigan was the last gig that I did with the band, and that was it, Wigan Pier.
Did you leave, or were you fucked out?
It was... I went before I was pushed. So
you saw it coming.
I knew that. I saw it coming. I knew that it was in the cards, and I wanted to try and further the theatrical thing, because I really did love theatrical bands, and
nobody was doing it. Sorry for interrupting you. Nobody was doing that. I mean, apart from the likes of Kiss.
Yeah,
nobody
Kiss
was doing that.
Well, the Tubes. I love the Tubes. Were brilliant.
But no British bands were doing that.
No. And it just it alienated me, and I just wanted to try and push that a little bit further, and that was it. I mean, and Bruce went shortly afterwards. He got off the gig with Maiden, and he went, and they got in Nicky Moore, and Nicky Moore was so right for Samson.
Yes,
he was so right for them.
Because I feel that, I mean, you're talking about the visual aspect of Samson here and the thing, but I think really it came to it musically, I mean, with Shock Tactics, because Tony Platt had a totally different idea
Yeah, he did.
of what he wanted with the sound and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
because he'd been working with AC/DC, and if you listen to those two albums, you'd think there was a different drummer on those albums.
Yeah.
Because he took my style away completely.
Yeah.
We had the whole album written, and they gave the gig to Tony for production, and we went into a rehearsal studio called John Henry's, and we were there for 2 weeks, and we literally dissected all of the material that we had and rebuilt all of the tracks in the way that he wanted. And he wanted that simplistic, no messing about, straight down the line. Yeah. And for me, all right, we produced Head On ourselves, and the production could have been a lot better, and maybe we were arrogant to think that we could produce an album in our own right. But for me personally, my playing on Head On is the true person. I was true to myself at that point.
I mean,
and I was playing the way that I wanted to play.
Yeah. Head On has a distinct identity,
Yeah,
and
it
it's
does.
a very, and that identity in terms of the drums is totally lost on Shock Tactics because it's
he pulled it away from me.
Yeah,
He
but I
took
think
it
it's
away.
also a matter of him aiming for more of the 80s idiom of the more reverb drums and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, well of course
Yeah.
that killed. As far as my style of drumming was concerned, that killed me completely because every drummer wanted to sound as if they were playing inside a bathroom.
Yeah.
So if you did
As you do.
any quick rolls or anything, it would be on the reverb, and the producer would go, "Oh no, we can't have any of that. It's got to be deliberate, bang, bang, bang," you know. And Shock Tactics is a good album. It really is.
Yeah.
But when they did the combination of the two, Head On and Shock Tactics, and called it Head Tactics, and they mixed it for an American audience, Jesus,
It's a shame.
It's just, I was the one that suffered out of all of the other guys in the band.
And that was released around 86.
Was it? Yeah. Okay, if you say so.
But back to the mask, it's described as a rhinestone covered mirror ball mask.
Yeah.
And did it go through changes during the time from the first and?
Yeah, especially now because I'm still doing it as part of Thunderstick, and I changed it because at the time that I started doing the Samson mask, it was very harsh. It was a very stark image, and as we've spoken about earlier, that there was a guy that was breaking into women's home and raping them in their own home, and he had a mask that was similar to what I was wearing. That led on to at the time there was women's lib was a very strong movement within the UK.
Like Me Too now. Similar.
Yeah. And it was really, really strong. And we started getting, we had these huge posters that had me as the focal point, the mask.
Did you get like hate?
Yes. Yeah, they started ripping posters down. They were protesting outside gigs about... And I've always viewed the Thunderstick character as a knockabout character, somebody that was never... There was no malice in that character at all. It was always something that was created purely for the stage, much the same. Theatre.
Not violence.
Exactly. No, there was no violence in it at all. So when I formed my own band after Samson, I thought, you know what, I'm going to put together a band with a female vocalist. And there was not that many bands that had female. They were all female bands like Girls' School and Rock Goddess and what have you, but there were not that many bands with a female vocalist in front of a male rock band. And so then I was able to say, if I got any protests from anybody, I'd just go and talk to her, would you? And that was it. And so I decided to soften the image by covering the whole of the mask in rhinestones or diamantes or whatever you want to call them, and it gave that mirror ball effect, which was really good, and I still wear it to this day. Unfortunately.
Later on with Thunderstick, you had some lineup changes.
Yep.
And you first started up with the vocalist Vinnie Monroe.
Yeah.
And this was between 81 and 82.
Yep.
And then you hooked up with Anna Marie Carmela Borg. And this was between 82 and 83, and this was the first female.
Vinnie did live work with us.
Yeah.
She never recorded. We recorded some demos, but they never got put out or anything. And then I put together Thunderstick Productions, and as a self-financed EP, we put out an EP with 4 tracks on it called Feel Like Rock and Roll, and that's where Anna came from. She'd come from a band called Chevron. Do you ever remember? Do you really? Yeah. Wow. Yeah, she'd come from a band called Chevron, and she had a really strange voice, a quirky voice. I never felt it was totally right for Thunderstick, but because we had the studio booked and I'd written the material and that, we were ready to go, so we recorded and we put out the 4-track EP.
Mm-hmm.
And then she lost her voice before a tour, and it got really crazy because we ended up going to the ear, nose and throat hospital in London to try and, you were talking about your voice earlier on and that, and we had to blow out the tour. And I just said, look, it's unfortunately we've got to part company, so we did that. And then the next one was Jodie
Valentine,
Yeah.
which you stayed for many years with.
Yeah, who I ended up marrying.
83 until 88.
Yeah.
But what?
Sorry.
What about the album New Wave of British Heavy Metal Revisited? Is that?
Yeah, the album you've got in your car.
Yeah. So, what did that album do for you guys? I mean, Weapon was included.
Fucking nothing for me.
It did nothing for us
We got
whatsoever.
fuck on
Really?
out.
Yeah,
We
nothing.
acted. Just sorry for interrupting again.
Right, go.
It paid off our bill to Virgin Publishing.
Really?
Sorry,
Yeah.
it paid off our bill to Virgin Publishing. We signed because through Vertigo. Lars Ulrich and
That's it, yeah.
the guy who invented New Wave of heavy metal.
Cliff Barton.
Cliff
Cliff
Barton.
Barton.
They compiled it, and we got this letter from Virgin saying, Vertigo want to use Set the Stage Alight, which I didn't write, but I sang on. And
You came up with the
still
title,
sing
too,
it.
I suppose.
I did actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got out from that. Anyway, we got a letter from Virgin saying they want to use it, and we'll wipe the slate clean. I think we owed them about 18 grand. When we got the publishing deal, you get your
I got nothing.
advance.
And they even put you on the cover initially.
Yeah. And they decided not to go ahead with the manufacturer of that cover because they were trying to sell it in retail outlets such as WH Smith in the UK. They're a conglomerate of
Probably
many.
Walmart.
Yeah, yeah. And they thought that their customers really shouldn't be looking at such a stark image as the Thunderstick image. So they covered it up.
But apart from getting anything, I mean, like monetary directly from the album, I mean,
I never got anything.
no,
Not a
but
penny.
But apart from that, did you guys feel like was there any revival? Did you get any requests to
recognition?
start playing?
Well, we kind of did,
yeah.
because Weapon only lasted. The original Weapon only lasted probably 2 years at the most, and we had shit management, and we kind of imploded.
Yeah.
Because we done the Motorhead tour, and I'm not going to talk about that because we've been spoken about so many times. We done that, and our management should have had another big tour, because the Motorhead tour was huge. I mean, it's 32 dates in 42 days, 4 nights at Hammersmith Odeon. And we got a great reception on it. When we came off that, they should have had another tour with another big band, and then another tour before we went out on our own. Instead, he stuck us on this fucking shitty little club tour. And he wouldn't sign a record deal. They kept holding out for, more and more money. So eventually, we had no money, we had no income. We couldn't do any gigs. And then that album came out, and it created a little interest.
Yeah.
And then we got offered, he must have done that as well, the Headbangers Ball in Germany. You ever done that?
No.
2005 it was, which would have been, had we been still together, would have been our 25th anniversary.
Right.
So we got the original band together for that. And it was great, the 4 of us who started out together. done that gig. And that's how we reformed as a band, because we come off that. We had a great success. And me and Jeff said, well, we should continue.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Baz, who died last year, he had this illness, some problem with a tumour in the back of his eye and brain. He couldn't work anyway. And he was very honest about it. He said, I can't work. I can't promise I can work. And Bruce Bislin, he'd been playing with the Suite for 28 years and earning great money, so he's not going to give that up. So anyway, me and Jeff went and we wrote some songs on the back of...
Yeah, but isn't that still quite a lot of years after this, the album was released, the revisited thing?
Well, it created the interest.
Yeah, but nothing happened around that time.
No.
And
just people spoke about it because...
But
who the fuck are Weapon?
Yeah. But I also think that in 1980, when you supported Motorhead there, wasn't it the big mistake that you didn't even have an album out? You go on this huge tour and there's no proper product to buy?
We'd recorded the album.
Yeah?
In two of the best studios in the world, the Manor Studios in Oxford and Townhouse Studios in Shepherd's Bush. You know, best quality, great producers. We released the single, double A-side single, which done really, really well. Got to number 2 in the Sounds Heavy Metal chart,
Neil Kay.
But the album didn't come out. So the album actually sat on the shelf for 23 years.
Yeah.
Before it was released by a small company.
It's so weird.
Zoom Records. It was really stupid. It was really weird that time, the whole new wave thing, because once Maiden kind of kicked off, every label wanted a new wave of British heavy metal band.
Yeah.
You know, and they're all watching. And it came down to us. I mean, it's just a look at the draw. Atlantic Records wanted us or more. They took more.
Everybody wants more.
You know, they spent £500,000.
Do you know more then? The band more.
Yeah. Although that was a joke.
Dave John Ross is on my new album.
Oh,
Who's
yeah.
that?
Dave Ross.
Cool.
Dave John Ross. Yeah.
Dave's nice.
Yeah.
But he wasn't in the band then, was he?
No, not the original band. No.
Anyway, you know, they spent £500,000 and, you know, they sold some albums, but it's just a look at the draw. I mean, they can't whinge about it. I'd have loved Atlantic Records to sign me, but they didn't.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
I'm still standing.
Yeah. Exactly.
But speaking of influencing other bands, such as Metallica, perhaps?
Do we influence them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, probably everyone on that album that Lars put together probably influenced.
Literally every band.
Yeah.
And again, you know, there's just, again, the look at the draw. They used to use Set the Stage Alight as their opening song, and they started out first. And they used a lot of Diamond Head stuff. Yeah. And people thought, they've written all this stuff. And they didn't.
Right. But they never told anyone during the shows.
No, and didn't have to. You know.
Right.
But then,
back in the US.
But then, you know, again, the look at the draw, they picked Diamond Head's Am I Evil, the cover.
Yeah.
And that's paid for Brian Tetler's house.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
The income.
Yeah.
It could have took stage. Well, I wouldn't have any fucking money because I didn't write it. But I sang it. And it's just the way it goes. You know, you can't whinge about it. We're sitting here, you know, in our late 40s. We're alive.
Yeah. Oh, you're
not kicking.
old.
We're still playing. I'm sorry. I'm probably a couple of years older.
Yeah.
We're still alive. We're still playing, and
That's the main
I'm happy
thing.
I'm doing that.
That's the main thing.
You know?
But you still both of you still got your bands and making quality music within sort of the same genre. You want to tell us what you got coming up here?
Yeah.
Plug time.
Let's plug
indeed.
something.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a 4-track EP, Thunderstick in one of its many incarnations. We've got a new lineup, and I think it's one of the tightest lineups I've had. Some of the past incarnations I had, we did a British Steel Festival in Theme in France, and we recorded that and put it out as a live album. And I like it. It's really good, but unfortunately, both the guitarists used to go off piste, and by that I mean that I would try and, because I write most of the Thunderstick material, and I have done for many years. I've always regarded myself as a musician rather than a drummer.
Yeah.
I mean, drumming for me is secondary to writing music. I get much more enjoyment out of actually writing and arranging stuff and producing. And we put this album out, and the two guitarists in places really gel together. They really sound tight and together, but a lot of it is ragged. So the new incarnation I've got is, I think, one of the tightest lineups I've ever had, which is good. And the vocalist I have, a young lady called Raven Blackwing. Yeah, she has got a great voice. She has got a great voice.
And looks pretty good too.
She does. Yeah, she does.
Well, your latest single features that lineup, right?
Yes, it does. Yeah,
And it's out on
we've got
all
a 4-track EP coming out in April next month. And then the album is due to come out because of COVID and everything else. It should have been out by now, and one thing and another.
So, yeah.
And we've had to record remotely. I mean, everybody suffered the same. We can't get together in a rehearsal studios. We're not allowed to record in the same room together. So a lot of it was done remotely. I recorded some of my drums in the rehearsal studios that we used to use, and one thing and another. So it's taken a long time. I'm still mixing it at the moment, doing it with the help of a guy called Bill Kendama, and Bill did the live album for us, and he sings in a band called Gang, which are a French band that are a really good French heavy metal band.
Le Gang.
Yeah, Bill Gang. Yeah. And so we're doing it kind of, backwards and forwards. We had these mixing sessions, and we'll send tapes backwards and forwards, and that's how we're progressing with it at the moment.
But it's kind of good in a way, this thing, because
it makes you get out there and work with people. Yeah.
And it can be done.
It does.
I mean, we've done 3 tracks for the new album, and Tony, our bass player, who's dealing with cancer, prostate cancer at the moment.
Yeah.
He's done his bass lines, remotely in London.
Yeah.
Which has been good for him as well, because he has something to do during all this shit.
Yeah.
And of course, Sverker out there's doing the business.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? And the man here, Robert, is producing it. It can be done.
It can be done.
Can be done.
Yeah.
And we're doing it.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you find the music industry is a different beast now completely? It's like when we started out, it was a case of try and get a management. You get your management. That management would also financially invest and put money in so that you could actually function. And you could rehearse, and you could get yourself together, and then hopefully go on and record. And that's how it was with Samson in the early days. That's probably why I have no money to speak of now from Samson income, because we ran up such a huge bill with the Samson management at the time, because they were floating us. They put us on a retainer wage. They would pay for rehearsals. You mentioned Ian.
That's what they used to do today.
I mean, we recorded 2 albums at Ian's studio in Kingsway with John McCoy and what have you. Being in tow, and all of that was just normal.
Yeah.
And then that management would go out and get you a record deal or a publishing deal. If you were unlucky enough not to get that major deal, and we suffered with Samson because we were signed to EMI, our management told us that we'd got a full straight deal with EMI, full album deal, and it wasn't the case. It was they told us porcupines, lies, and it was a single with the option to follow up for an album later on. And so we ended up signing to a smaller label called Gem that were owned by RCA, and we didn't get that kind of support. You didn't get the tour support, you didn't get the advertising and the promotion amount of money, and So therefore, all the time you're constantly borrowing from the management, and the debt is going up and up and up, and that's the way it was. Whereas now it's like it's a completely different thing. You know, people can do an album, as you just said, you can do an album in your bedroom.
And that's, you know.
But the streaming thing really, I really
don't
get
even
on
fucking go there.
Yeah,
I fucking hate that shit.
I mean, can you believe it? I'm decided that the new album, the new Thunderstick album, isn't going to be available digitally. I'm going to press it on CD, and it's going to be available as a CD, as a hard copy CD.
You have to make it. You have to help out Spotify and make it available, because the
Spotify.
CEO wants to buy Barcelona's home stadium or something.
I mean, you know, there was a thing I put on my Facebook page the other day about it. You know, the fact that you have to. Who was it now? It was YouTube. That you have to have over 1,000 streams to make $1. I mean, how ridiculous is that?
Well, the prime example of that is what's his fucking name? On my boy. Fucking brain dead.
Come on,
Peter Frampton.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
You know, his album, the big one.
Yeah, Frampton Comes Alive. Yeah,
and the single.
Yeah.
Something like 76 million streams, downloads.
Yeah.
And it was like probably 20 grand or something.
Yeah.
You know, and that's fucking obscene.
It's terrible.
Really obscene.
It really is. And for old farts like us that have been around forever, you know, it's I mean, I find it really soul destroying. It really is. You put your heart and soul into writing material and making sure that it sounds the best that you can possibly make it. And I've just had a single release. We put a single out, I don't know, about 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, something like that. And you put it out there and you just lose it completely. You just go, all right, there it is, gone, bye.
You like it, you like it.
Yeah. And you get radio stations going, oh, it's great, that's really good. We've put it on our playlist. We're on Hard Rock Hell playlist at the moment. You know,
where's the money?
Constantly. There's no money there, nothing. No.
But that's why, you know, I've done this again. I refer to it as a solo album. I wanted to call it Danny Hynes and His Friends because that's how we started. Fun band, and you know, down to this fucker again. He said, "Let's go in and record a few songs." And we came in and we done 3 songs, and then we went, "Send me some more lyrics. We'll write some more." He ended up full albums coming out on March 16th, and we done it here. It was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Literally, you know, we rehearsed. There's rooms down there. We rehearsed on a Monday. Done the 3 songs on a Thursday here. Then I think we went back for another rehearsal a few weeks later and came in and done another 5, 6.
Yeah.
But it was all just, and it was fun.
Yeah.
You know, and we're releasing it. We're not going to make fucking money out of it.
No.
But, you know, it's
a
joy to do it.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, we at the time you were still the previous Weapon lineup, and I asked you, "Are you writing anything?" And you were like, "Well, nothing's going on at the moment." So I said, "Well, let's do some solo stuff then." You get, especially during the pandemic, because if you can't do shows, at least put an album together. So when
well, he kept me together because, you know, during the pandemic, you know, obviously people weren't visiting, and he always came around every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. He'd come around with. He actually came around for breakfast.
Tea and sandwiches.
Not breakfast. But he was there all the time. And then, you know, we done the writing for the solo stuff. And then we started doing writing for the new Weapon album. And we many tracks? 8, 9?
The new Weapon?
Yeah.
Yeah. We got 9 tracks, yeah.
And we've 3 are down and all the drums for the rest are down. We're just waiting for the guitarist now to do his bits, and again, it's not. I haven't picked the lineup yet.
Right.
We done the lineup we did for the 2 gigs was Robert, Hawk and Granite. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
On guitar. And
now that's his name anyway.
And Andreas Westerland on drums.
Beautiful.
They've done 2 gigs with me.
We call him the handsome one.
The handsome one. And I mean, we're using different guys for the recording of the album. And we just, you know, again, see how it goes.
Well, same with me. I've got loads of guests on the next Thunderstick album, which is really good. You know, as I say, we've got Dave John Ross from Moore, another new Wobben band.
Yeah.
I've got Terry Watram, who I was with in Iron Maiden back in the day.
What did he play?
He's guitarist.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Sorry, go on. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say guitar.
Guitar. Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I can remember
I
that.
haven't started to read him. I have to ask you, how are you so knowledgeable about his stuff?
It's a condition.
A very sad one.
Yeah.
Well, the last time that when was it you came to England and we first met and we...
Christ, it's like...
Oh, you met before?
Yeah.
Is it 15 years ago or something like that?
Was
Yeah.
it?
It's more than that.
Yeah, it's more than that. Isn't it?
Flo and Eddie go to London.
That's why they're here, because if they heard that Thunderstick was here and they weren't here, they'd get a rash or something.
Where's my fucking fans?
I'm right here. What are you talking about?
You're writing with him.
All right.
Oh yeah.
But you know, I'm really pleased that I've got lots of different people on it, and I've just got to make sure that they're happy with it, and I do them justice.
Yeah.
Because they're in their own right, they're really good musicians.
Makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it's great.
And
It's
for
great.
you know fans of your band,
It's great.
it's interesting.
Yeah,
For them.
yeah.
About the new Weapon album, do you feel the same as Barry? Do you want to release it like physical, like CD, vinyl, or?
I'm hoping that it's going to be so good that some record A&R man will get off his
Gonna
fucking
put up
ass,
some money.
yeah, and say,
Yeah.
"Oh, here's a few bob.
Mm.
We'll promote you."
Mm.
Probably unlikely to happen, but you know, I'm going to try. Now I have a few really good contacts, and it's obviously down to how good the album is. But we think we've written some good stuff. It's a little bit different from the last two albums. You know, I see them as just hard rock.
Yeah, more hard rock.
Hard rock.
This is sort of...
This is a bit more in your face, I think.
Yeah, well, we talked about sort of embracing the new wave British, the heavy metal stamp that sort of your bands have.
What we started out with.
Yeah, and whether or not you were metal, if they think you're gonna be metal, let's be metal.
Yeah.
Like,
But it's not, you know, obviously, you know by my voice, I'm not a...
No, not screamer.
That's not me. Oh, God.
that's the way you talk to me.
That's me being abusive. No, I think I'm more just, you know, rocky. You know, I don't...
That's why, unfortunately, when you get lumped into the terminology new wave of British heavy metal, I've never, my band Thunderstick have never been heavy metal at all.
Well, none of us
We're
were.
hard rock.
No, when if you think back to the time that term,
Yeah.
we didn't know what the fuck that was
No.
till we finished with it, and then we're going, oh, we were part of that.
Oh, yeah, really, yeah.
But then you know you're lumbered with it, and you know it's great for the fans who love it, but a lot of the fans expected you to still continue with that sound from 1980 and not, you know, mature.
Yeah.
I mean, a man of my age,
I
40 years of age, you know, you have to mature.
And I get caught in between, you know, because you've got that, oh, yeah, you were the focal point of new wave of British heavy metal. And I think, well, I can't do the festivals that bands like that are on because I'm not heavy enough.
Yeah.
But I'm heavier than just normal rock bands. So you get caught in between this kind of really middle ground.
It's a weird thing.
It is so strange.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing.
Can I just go back to what was asked here about releasing stuff physically? I mean, did you release the Something Wicked This Way Comes privately?
Yeah, both. Under Thunderstick Productions, it was.
But
both,
the vinyl as well, or was that a license?
No, the
thing?
vinyl was through Jess Cox, who used to be singer with Tigers of Pantang.
Oh, yeah.
He suddenly got in contact and said, "Oh, have you thought about putting out the album on vinyl. And I said, no, I hadn't really thought about it, but yeah, let's go. So he put it out through a German label called something...
High Roller?
High Roller, that's
Yeah.
it. There you go, thank you. So, yeah.
So when did that come out?
2017.
Because I mean, now we've been trying to get. We found live tapes of Weapon on the Motorhead tour
Right.
on a cassette,
Wow.
and we had them through Robert's friend of Robert's digitized.
Yeah.
It was on a cassette
Yeah.
from the desk.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of audience,
Yeah.
but trying to get on vinyl. We had this guy in Belgium that got behind it. Yeah. Get it out. And 6 to 7 months,
Nothing.
he sent all the artwork, sent everything, tapes, and suddenly he just fucking stopped. Won't take calls, won't take emails, won't answer anything. Just stopped. And for us to do it now, there's something like 8 to 10 months waiting list for vinyl.
Yeah.
And it has to be done on vinyl. Robert actually had a copy done for me on vinyl. Was it an American company?
Yeah.
You know, how it would look and how it's an actual vinyl copy.
It's a limited edition.
It's two copies, me and him. But it just looks the fucking dog's bollocks.
Yeah.
It's, open thing, photographs of the band on tour and
That's
outside
an album title
Hammersmith
right there.
Odeon.
I mean, all this streaming that's what's missing, isn't it? Can you remember when a band brought out a release and you used to think,
Went to a record store.
Yeah, you went to a record store and you got it and you took it home and you took it out and you put it on your turntable and then you'd sit and study this album cover, read about, all the special thanks to where it was recorded, who was involved. Oh, man. It was an experience.
My 15-year-old son took me to a record store yesterday. I didn't know existed in Stockholm. What was it?
Pet Sound. You didn't know about Pet
I
Sound?
never heard of it.
My God.
And we were out yesterday, and we actually went to the charity store. And I always pick up a few CDs.
Yeah.
Just give them
Tom
some money.
Jones, Rod Stewart.
Captain Blackbeard.
Yes.
It's a nice price area.
And he said, "Oh, we should go to Scansell. There's a great record." I was, "Where?" "I'll show you." So we went up there, and it's a real fucking record store with tons of stuff.
All that business,
Yeah. And I bought Slade in Flame.
Oh, right, okay.
£8. And
have they just got back together again? Noddy Holder and Dave Lee?
just talk about it.
Oh, is it?
I don't think so.
But there was a photo of
there
them
was a
together.
photo.
We're
I
having
saw
lunch
that.
and just talk about it.
Yeah.
I
Just
saw
talk
the
about
photo.
Glastonbury.
Glastonbury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I won't talk about them at the moment because I have friends in and out of that band.
Okay.
But, and the other album I bought was The Pretty Things, Savage Eye,
Wow, man.
on vinyl.
Wow.
Perfect fucking nick.
Wow.
Yeah, I love vinyl stores. Anyway,
Yeah, it's lovely.
last question from you.
Well, actually, I'm sorry,
Oh, yeah.
but we need to get some Kiss into this podcast. Let's go,
talking
Barry.
in Sweden, kissa is a piss.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and that'd be
Oh, right.
that's my cue now because I'm going to have a kisser.
Oh, okay.
You can talk about Kiss. I'll have to go.
You don't want to hear about Kiss?
I'll be back. I'm
Alright, Barry,
fucking
so-
really upset in the cat here.
I wasn't aware there was an option to actually go to excuse oneself
To
from
the
this
loo.
thing. Yeah.
I can't hold it anymore.
Well, Noddy Holder.
Well, we should probably wrap it up soon, but I really feel we need to get this Ace Frehley.
That wasn't me.
It's like an AC interview coming up.
So tell us the Ace Frehley story, because the good part about this is you're a Kiss fan too. So this was a cool moment for you.
Yeah, it really was. I've got a mouthful of M&Ms now.
I'll start it off then. So you told me in the car over here that in the 80s you were invited to jam with Ace and his Frehley's Comet Band on
That's
some demos they were
Yeah.
working on.
Yeah. I didn't ever play on the demos,
No?
but I've got a cassette at home of playing with Ace. And what it was that a guy who was a big Samson fan and a huge Thunderstick fan got hold got hold of me and said, "You got to come over, man." And I was like, yeah, okay, you know, I believe it when I see it. And he was like, "Oh, no, you know, I'm friends with Ace and we'll get him down here and we'll jam and all that." And I thought, yeah, right, you know. Anyway, long story short is that it actually happened. And he flew us out. And I met Paul Samson out there and we started rehearsing for a gig that we were doing at the Roxy. Because we decided, you know, the two of us hadn't played together in so many years.
I'd actually like to get some of the long story here, but so you flew from London to meet the guy that was friends with Ace, or was it for the rehearsals?
No, friends with Ace.
Yeah.
And he...
In New York then?
Yep.
Yeah.
He had a huge collection of... he used to buy and sell guitars. And... he had a walk-in wardrobe that was just full of guitars.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. He used to walk in there and he said, "Oh, that was Felix Papal," because he was taught how to play guitar by Leslie West.
Wow.
Indeed. Wow, indeed. And he would strap on an SG and if you shut your eyes, you were listening to Leslie.
Wow. That's cool.
It was quite incredible. Yeah, really was.
What was his name? Is he
Al Romano.
Yeah?
A guy called Al B. Romano. He's disappeared off the face of the earth. I have no idea where he is. You don't see him on Facebook or any social media sites or anything.
That sounds like a statement, Al B. Romano.
Al B. Romano. He ended up doing an album with John McCoy.
Oh, yeah?
John McCoy
From
being
Gillan.
the bass player from Gillan. Yeah. And because of his association with Samson, because John obviously played on Survivors and produced it.
Yeah.
Anyway, he flew me out there and we got together. And he showed me all this. This room was just full of Felix Pappalardi's stuff, Jack Bruce's stuff. This was Jimi Hendrix's pipe that he used to smoke from and, you know, all that sort of thing. And he started talking about Ace, and he showed me the black Les Paul smoking guitar.
Right.
And he'd bought that, and he'd sold it to a couple of guys, you know, because he was a wheeler dealer with all these guitars. And he said, "Oh yeah, Ace is going to come over and play and all that kind of thing," and it happened, and that's how it was. I was staying at his place, and Ace came over. And I couldn't believe it because I'd loved Kiss since, you know, I think the first, I didn't get into the first albums. I was a bit late coming into Kiss.
Yeah.
But the live album, the first Kiss live, you know, that was it for me. And to me, Ace was unbelievable. It was quite incredible. And there am I, this guy from southeast London, and I'm sitting there with the great Ace Frehley.
Yeah.
And at the time, he was, let's say, he was a bit wayward. I don't want to kind of, you know, go into too many details, but yeah, he was a bit wayward to say the least. But
that doesn't quite tell us which year that was, because that could have been any year.
1989.
Yeah.
That was the year.
Yeah.
That was the year that I was out there with him. And we ended up playing. He was waiting for his drummer to come out of a guy called Anton Fig, who was playing with David Letterman's house band. And I ended up just playing with him and jamming with him, you know, and hanging out for a couple of days. And it was just incredible.
So you jammed for a couple of occasions then?
Yeah.
A couple of evenings?
Yeah. I couldn't tell you whether they were evenings or afternoons or when.
So what songs did you play? Do you remember?
No, I can remember we did a lot of Cream stuff, and I would have to go back to I've got a cassette of it all, and if you look hard enough on Facebook, there's a picture of me with all the Thunderstick stuff on with Ace, and because he got up and jammed with us in the Roxy as well. I can't even remember what we did for the encore, but he got up and did it with us. It was a rock and roll track. You know,
but that was quite strange then, that you and Paul happened to be in New York.
Yeah, at the same time.
And happened to decide to start to play together again.
It was engineered by Al. Al had flown me out. I had spent 2 weeks with Al originally, and I put together. He wanted to put together. He lived at his parents' home, and his parents were loaded. His mother was in real estate. His father was a lawyer, and he was just a wayward son. And he was like, they had a huge, great basement under the house, and I mean the house was absolutely immaculate. And typical sort of American, upwardly mobile type of house. Yeah. Plastic on all the seats, so you don't get any mucky paw prints on the seats. And underneath the house was this rehearsal room, and he had a full backline in the rehearsal room, much as though you've got here, but, about 3 or 4 times the size. Yeah. And he'd been wheeling and dealing with guitars. And I stayed there, went out for a couple of weeks, then I came back, told Paul about it, and Paul said, do you reckon he'd fly me out as well, Is he that much of a fan? And I said, yeah, he is. And so I went out, and then Paul came out, and that's how we got together. We then started rehearsing, and we put together a Samson set, and we played the Roxy, and that was when we were introduced to Ace.
So they got you a gig as well during those 2 weeks?
Yep.
And what was the other guys in your band then?
A guy called Eric Moriello, that's it. Yeah.
You just picked up 2 local guys to do a Samson show?
He was really good, a really good bass player, yeah. Still playing now, yeah.
And who sang?
Sorry?
Who sang?
Paul.
Oh. Did you do performance at 3-piece then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just the 3-piece, yeah. And we played the Roxy, and Ace got up and jammed. And then from that, we kind of got together. Paul went back before I went back, and that's when I stayed on and ended up sort of jamming with Ace. I've got it on cassette. I mean, nothing, there was nothing that was ever going to be put out or anything like that. It was just purely, I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. And I of course, because I knew that I was meeting him, I took out my Kiss Alive book and he signed it to Thunderstick. If you ever look on Facebook, there's a picture of he and I together, and I've got all the Thunderstick stuff on.
So those shows, were they always going to be just one-offs?
Yeah, one-offs, yeah.
They didn't sort of light the fire to do it?
I mean, after that, we came much the same as what Danny was talking about, that, you come back and you think, hang on a minute, we did have something special here. So when Paul and I both came back from the States, we decided that we would get together again and start writing some new material. And at the time, Bruce was going to be involved in it because he was in his solo stuff. And we approached Bruce with it. We'd written some new, about 5 or 6 tracks of new material. And we contacted Bruce, and he was doing his solo stuff. And he was really up for it. There's a couple of interviews that he did. One, I think it's Norwegian or something like that.
I think it's the interview we did with him.
Oh, was it really? Was it? Yeah. And he said
Norwegian, yes.
Yeah, no. Was it really the 2 of you? Yeah. And he started talking about, said, there's a chance that we would get back to.
There've been phone calls going on.
That's right. Yeah, we gave him all the new material, and he really liked it. And I can't really say what he said because I don't want to get myself into trouble. But he intimated, let's put it that way, that there wasn't really any chance of him getting back with Iron Maiden at the time. And his solo stuff was in full flight, and he would like to have a go with Samson again, and just and there was an interview. Is that when he said, "Oh yeah, we're getting back together with Thunderstick, and we'll have the cage and all the
exactly." Yeah.
Okay.
So what happened?
Nothing. 2 weeks later, it was announced. 2 weeks later, it was announced in the music press that Bruce had rejoined Iron Maiden.
Oh, it was at that stage. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But something did happen because you went to Japan and did the
Yes, right.
20 years
That's right,
of
yeah.
New Wave of British Heavy Metal
Yeah.
Festival.
Yeah, that's right. And he was supposed to join us there, but
Yeah.
it didn't happen. We did it as...
Was that the same one that Mantis did with Diano?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the original lineup with Praying Mantis. Yeah, Trespass, Tank
Yeah.
with Algie.
wow.
Yeah.
You know, I one of your podcasts has to be interviewing these fucking pair. They're so knowledgeable.
They are really. Yeah, it's great. But don't you find that? Don't you find that there are so many people out there knowledgeable about things that
Your
you
life.
did? Yeah. They know more about me than I know about me.
We done the Bulgarian rock festival, 2012 I think it was, and it was Dennis Stratton was doing.
Lionheart.
No, it wasn't Lionheart. It was a kind of a Maiden type
Right.
tribute
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
They were headlining. Saxton, Dawson,
Oliver Dawson.
Oh yeah,
Saxon.
Oliver Dawson. So.
they were on that as well. It was great. It was great fun. But we come off stage there, and this kid's 18, 19 years of age come up, you know, oh, Weapon. I'm going, how
Yeah.
the fuck would you know me?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And they had a single from 1980. I go, where the fuck did you get that? My father bought it in London.
Yeah.
And I was really touched, you know.
Yeah, it is.
And he said, it's my father's birthday today. Could you ring him? Could you speak to him on the phone? I'll ring him. I was like, sure. So he's talking in Bulgarian to his father. Blah, 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 blah. And we go on the phone and say, I can't even remember his bleeding now. Happy birthday. He go, I can't believe you guys are still alive. Happy birthday, well, fuck you. But it's weird because, you know, that they are so knowledgeable.
It's
you know.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
And when we did Theme, the French gig as well, you know, the people that came up to me, and they are fanatics about what you've done. And it's just so humbling.
It is.
It really
It's
is.
great. It really is good, you know.
I mean, there's no way that I can ever become arrogant about it or dismissive about it. It is genuinely humbling that when people come up and say, look, you know, I've followed you since, and you were the reason that I got into music, and you were the reason that you know, and I play guitar, not even just drummers, you know, I play guitar and I'm in a theatrical type of band now, all because of you, and it's just very humbling.
Well, you know, the lovely thing is, well, I have a 15-year-old son, he'll be 16 next month. And when my friend Baz died, the original bass player from Weapon, his sister gave me his bass guitar. And I mean, it's a Fender Precision, 1960 something or other.
Wow.
Worth a fortune. He fucking destroyed it, Baz. He's just wrecked it. But it still plays.
Yeah.
And I eventually got it back to England, to Sweden. When was it? About 2 months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And my son, he's kind of into rap and all that stuff. He's doing his own thing. And brought the guitar home. And he went, oh, wow. He'd met Baz when he was a baby. It's really cool. I love to play bass. He puts it on him and he's fucking doing that. And he goes off and he's on the internet and learns a few bits and pieces. So, day before yesterday, my wife booked him bass lessons. And for his birthday. And he is over the fucking moon. Now, he's loves music. He's got a bass guitar from a hero of mine. And he's going to learn to play bass.
Yeah.
I should do that.
You should do that as well.
Yeah.
The next generation of
Yeah.
musicians.
And my daughter's a singer.
Is she?
Wow.
Yeah. She's got a wonderful voice. And I don't just say that because I'm her dad, but it's just incredible. I was walking past her bedroom when she used to live at home. She's now, blimey, 25. Jesus. And I could hear this voice coming out of her bedroom. And I thought it was something that she was playing, and I suddenly realised it was her singing. And she's got this smoky timbre to her voice that I couldn't believe from somebody so young had got that kind of sound.
Raspy.
And it was, yeah.
And is she doing anything?
Yeah, she's getting together. Well, she lives in Scotland now, and she got herself a degree and a master's degree and one thing and another. But music, obviously, is all, something that she's always lived with. Yeah. And we took her to see Alice Cooper when she was 9. And the security guard outside the venue looked at her and looked at me and went, she's going to come out a different kid, like that. And all the other kids are singing, these sweet songs at their school, and Abby turned around and said, "Let's sing Dance Yourself to Death by Alice Cooper."
Well, I have to tell you the story with Elliot. The first gig he ever went to was Skansen, which is a big venue here in Stockholm, open air place, and it was Sweet, Slade, and Smokey, and I know the guys from Sweet and Slade, so we had the passes. So we're backstage. He was, I guess he was what, 9 or 10.
And it's like 4 years ago.
Yeah, maybe 11. And so backstage now, and he's into all the dressing rooms. He's allowed to go into all the dressing rooms and get the goodies. And then the next one, my friend Noel Wyatt, who was the video man on the Kiss tour, and his job was Gene Simmons. That was his gig, just Gene Simmons. So we're backstage for that as well. And what was the next one? Saxon,
right,
at Freezer House.
And the friends.
So he now thinks that every concert you go to, you get a AAA pass because you're with your dad. You just don't go to concerts, as in you sit and watch a band.
Punter, yeah.
and of course, when we went to the Saxon gig, I have to say, they were fucking amazing. We're in the backstage area after the gig, and Biff comes in, and I go, "How you doing, man?" No. Straight to Elliot. "How you doing, kiddo?" Really? I thought, how fucking nice is that? And then Nibs Carter, the bass player. Eddie was sitting on his own. Me and Malin were talking to Biff. And suddenly, he's off at Nibs, giving her all that. I thought, what lovely guys, of family people, that they talk to.
But that's how everybody's grown up, haven't they? I mean, we were all young kids when we started, and now you just sort of,
Well, bass players are usually nice.
What's that?
Bass players are usually nice.
Well, apart from you, Robert.
Well, yeah, you gotta have one exception to the
maybe
rule.
fucking Flo. Not so sure.
But Saxon did a stormer of a gig at Hammersmith Odeon, weren't they?
The new album is just
the
dogs.
But
Anyway.
they had that, they had that decline in their popularity where they couldn't get arrested for a little while, and then suddenly, they did that television thing as well, didn't they? That program all about them trying to get back up to where they had been.
But they're lucky. I mean, thankfully, a friend of mine is again Adam Parsons, Siren Management in Los Angeles. It's amazing they've signed up most of my friends' bands.
Yeah.
They have Uriah Heep, Europe,
Wow.
Saxon, Gun, and a few other smaller bands. And since this management took over, the careers are just up
So
and
we're
up.
waiting for the call then.
Well, when you hear the new Weapon album,
They will come.
Adam Parsons and Ace Trump will be begging to sign us.
And on that note, I actually think we have to wrap up because the
Why?
camera just died. We can continue talking and drinking, but we'll do it without the cameras. So now we can start the,
Oh no, we shut
the
up.
proper stories. No, I'm just kidding.
The
But,
riff that was fun. That was fun.
What do you guys say? I think we should wrap up. I want to give a big thank you to both of you for coming here today.
Thank you.
First time in Sweden.
Yeah.
And
My first time.
yeah, but you never left. So it's still your first time. Okay, thank you so much for coming and joining us. And Chris, any last words?
Fuck you.
I met 2 legendary people here today, so learned a lot. So thank you.
Thank
See you guys next
Thank you,
episode.
Robert and Christian.
Thank you. Thank you, very much.
That was fun.
Bye, y'all.
Yeah.
Happy trails.
Wow.
There's so much to talk about.